Welcome to Great Leaders Serve. I'm your host, Kevin Best, and today we have Pamala Brown-Grinion as our guest today for our conversation. So Pamala, it's great to see you again today. Thank you so much for being a part of our conversation today. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
All right, wonderful. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here, Kevin. And I'm always excited to share my expertise with others. So thank you for having me.
Welcome.
A little bit about what I do. Well, I am a personal and professional development coach. I primarily specialize in the quintessential skills that helps to build self-confidence. If it's etiquette, if it's polishing and refinement, if someone wants to learn better communication skills or how to enter a room and captivate an audience when they walk in, things like that.
Okay. Now, tell me a little bit about, I was introduced to you by another person we did a podcast conversation with. And as you know, we talk to people who serve others, lead by serving others. Tell me about that management style that you utilize within that to help others by serving them.
Yes, my leadership style is primarily transformational leadership. And the reason why I decided to, well, it kind of chose me. I didn't really choose it. But the reason why I embarked on the journey for transformational leadership is because I want to see people have an experience with themselves. If it's in my training session or if it's in a coaching session, I want people to be able to walk away and say that I've gotten something out of that. I'm a different person because I interacted with Dr. Pamala, or just to identify the things in themselves that they know that they need to work on. Then what I do is to help them to identify those things, build a bridge from point A to point B, and lead by example, first of all, and, let them see the transformation that they want to be within themselves.
So tell me how you came up with this idea. So it's very cool what you do in terms of etiquette and other areas that you're talking about. How'd you come up with the idea?
Well, I filled a void in myself first. I grew up understanding and knowing that my skills were inept, and the young ladies around me, as I became an adult, I noticed that the young ladies around me in my community were also suffering from the same shortcomings that I had, like not knowing how to interact in a crowd, or not knowing how to use the right utensils, or just not knowing how to allow your personality to represent you in the best light. And so what I wanted to do was fill a void for myself first. And in doing so, it ended up being something that the community needed. And I've been on this journey for about 30 years now.
Wow. So that is absolutely fascinating. And to be able to understand that there is a gap. Most people don't see the gap. Mm-hmm. So highlight how you saw the gap. That's an interesting area.
Well, again, I saw the gap in myself first, and it's going to sound crazy, but I compared myself to my television families that I loved when I was a child, like the Partridge Family, the Brady Bunch, the Beavers. And I noticed skills that they had and things that they did that we just did not do in my home, or I didn't see it in my community at all. And I wanted to learn some of those skills. And then also, I would sneak a peek at The Young and the Restless when my mom would watch it sometimes. And I was just so enamored by the women that were so powerful and well poised, and they articulated well, they dressed well. They were a little, their behavior, was a little cutthroat, but they still represented themselves in a light that I was impressed by. And I just wanted to, I aspired, I guess is the way to say it. I aspired to have some of those skills.
So by serving others, you obviously run into different issues and concerns and in how people relate to you. So how do you work through the problems of working with people who may not be seeing the gap, and you're helping to bring that out of them? Obviously, they can't accept that by you telling them, they have to accept it themselves. So talk a little bit about the concerns and problems you run into as you're working with these people.
Well, I do a lot of work with young people, young African-American females. And the number one, I do an exercise with them called the Personal Behavior Change Contract. And it's something that I developed for myself. And when I have them fill out the questionnaire, the first question is, what do you need to change most about yourself? And I take them through a guided meditation session and allow them to just be still, be quiet, and go inward so that they can retrieve the answer. Now, I already know the answer because I've, interacted with them, but I want them to be able to identify, begin to acknowledge first and then identify their own shortcomings. Nobody needs to tell you what you need to fix, right? You already know. And I just take them through a few exercises that are reflective, thought-provoking, that guides them towards the answer instead of my saying, you have an issue with your personality or you have an issue with anger, which is disrupting your personality. How we're going to fix that.
Now, you've been doing this, as you said, for 30 years, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Tell me about is there anything that keeps you up at night at this point as you're thinking about that?
I would say what keeps me up most at night is when I interact with my clients and they're in a place. I want to grab them by the hand and drag them through the tunnel, but I can't. It's a process. And I have to remind myself that just like you, they didn't arrive in this state overnight, and they're not going to change or come out on the other side of the tunnel overnight. And I think that gives me the most, I think I lose more sleep over wanting people to be healed inward quicker, faster. And that's just not the process. You definitely have to trust the process when you're in my line of work, and you have to go on the journey with the individuals that you're working with.
So when you think about the people that you're working with, how do they find you? Or is it just by website? How do they find you?
Most of my clients are word of mouth. I work with someone and they get great results, and then they know someone that may have a similar issue or just need some help coming out of a rut. And so they would tell someone, but I'm definitely on all social media platforms. I do have a website, but mostly it's word of mouth. I am my business card.
Okay. And I do understand you do some work with Monroe Community College as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I do. I go in as a consultant. I work with their CNA program, and initially, when the students come, they think that they're coming to start the CNA program.
What is CNA?
Certified Nursing Assistant, I'm sorry. And when they come, they think this is the first day of the CNA program, but it's not. It's actually 3 days of personal, professional, and mindset work with me. And I introduce them into skills that will help them be more successful in the classroom, as well as once they leave the classroom for employment. And I always remind them that I am not preparing you to become CNAs. I am preparing you for life. So I teach life skills, and my purpose is to close the social skills gap.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing that you do that. How do those students find, so they've been surprised, hey, congratulations, you've been part of the CNA program. Now we're going to learn life skills, and they didn't know they were coming in for that. How did they react to that?
Well, it's kind of a mixed reaction. Sometimes I get students that say, I wasn't expecting this. Sometimes I get students that say, you've changed my life in the first 3 hours. We have 3-hour sessions, and then we break for lunch and have another 3 hours. And I do the most provocative work in the first 3 hours because I need to break the ice. I need to build rapport, and I need them to build rapport with each other as well. And so I go right in. I go right to the heart, and I go right to the soul. And usually before the first 3 hours, people are crying, and people are saying, I feel like I've been to church, or I feel like I've been to therapy, or, I feel so much better. So it's kind of a mixed reaction. By the end of the first day, the people that said, I wasn't expecting this, they're hooked, lined, and sunk by the end of the day. They're buying into it and really understand that they need it.
So when you think about the people that you're helping, the vast majority of people that you're working with, as you said, African American females, young African American females,
all different ages,
different ages,
but predominantly, I would say the post high school, college, millennial, that age.
So when they come to find you, what are they looking for the most part? Your leadership style is very different, and you're teaching them a very different type of leadership style. So what are they looking for when they come to see you? Obviously, they've been introduced usually by somebody else, but they come and talk to you. What are they seeking?
Usually, by the time someone gets to me, they have begun to realize that they've come to the end of themselves, that they need someone to help to navigate their future or their life. And a lot of times I get people, or mostly females, I don't work with a lot of men, but mostly females that say, I'm a little stuck in my life. I need to change this or that about my life. I want to get to the next level professionally, but I have some personal barriers that are hindering me. And I know that I need to work through them in order to get to the next level. And again, I take them through the provocative questions to help them go inward to identify for themselves first. Let's really get to the root of the barrier. I don't want to gloss and floss over it. I want to get to the root of the barrier. And then once we get to the root of the barrier, we start to chip away at it. And a lot of times I refer them for professional counseling services because I'm a coach. I'm not a counselor. And I know that there's a thin line, but I know how to stay on my side of the fence. And if it gets to be a little deeper than what I believe I can handle, then I refer them to one of my mental health colleagues.
Okay. And now, one of the other things that you told me in a conversation we had earlier was that you also go to churches and you talk about what you do there. Can you explain a little bit of how you work within the church system?
Right. So this is, I would say, a crusade that I have where I'm trying to educate people in my community, the Black and Brown community, on how to build financial wealth using life insurance and how to change your perceptions about life insurance, because most people believe that life insurance is to leave money for people after you're dead, when in all actuality, life insurance can be used while you're alive, your living benefits, as well as help to begin generational wealth building for your future generation. So my crusade is to be able to go into the churches and work with pastors and their congregations to just spread the word, because that's where, I'm a Black female, of course, and that is the staple in Black community is our churches. And so that is the best way to disseminate information if you want to go wide and deep, is to target the churches.
Yeah. Now, so with that, are you able to meld the coaching, the leadership training, transformational training that you do along with that? Does that somehow come together at times? How does that work?
Absolutely. In all of my platforms where I utilize my skills, they all come together. They're all synergistic. And so when I'm talking about life insurance, I break it down into money manners and financial etiquette and financial mindset. And that is changing the way you think about money. But first, you need to understand how money works for you, and how you should behave with your money. And so basically, I teach people how to make their money work for them, to make their money work as hard for them as they work for it. So it all ties in together.
Okay. Now talk about family, and let's talk about family first. So you have some children.
I do.
You have, if I remember, 3 sons?
I have 4 sons.
4 sons. There's a twin in there.
Yeah, I have 4 biological sons. Yes,
yeah.
And then I have 2 babies that are near and dear to my heart that I call my adopted sons. And then I have a stepson who you would never know that I did not birth this young man.
So talk to me a little bit about your leadership, the serving leadership that you do. How does that work with them?
Well, I try to lead by example. From the time my sons were young, I've always taught them how to respect themselves first. And then sometimes you have to be able to identify, like in a female, I taught all of my sons how to date, right? And I am their first example of a female relationship. So I want to teach them about girls, women. I want to teach them about the idiosyncrasies of women so that they understand what makes a woman tick and what makes a woman talk. And so I lead by example, but I educate first in those spaces about the nuances that I know that they're unfamiliar with or unaware of. And in doing so, I have 5 sons that are married, and none of my sons had children out of wedlock. The majority of them, 4 out of those 5 are in college. Those are my older ones. And then the twins, one of them is a junior at Brockport now, and the other one just finished his barbering program. So they're all doing the things that they were taught to do because they saw me lead by example first.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. And I think more men should definitely take your transformational leadership if you help them learn how to listen to women.
I agree.
So talk a little bit more about the community. So beyond the church work that you've done, are there other things that you do within the community to promote the transformational leadership?
I've worked with a lot of organizations in my career. You could, 30 years is a long span. So most nonprofits in the community I've worked with the rec centers. I've worked at various colleges across New York State, not just New York State. I work with different programs, C-STEP, STEP, McNair. I try to go where the youth are because I understand that the youth are our leaders of tomorrow. But when we look at the state of the youth right now, it doesn't look very promising in some instances. And so, like I was saying earlier, I try to find the gap. Like I did within myself, I tried to find the gap within the youth community, and then I just kind of find my way in to the individuals that need my services, that are the head of these organizations that can bring me in.
Okay. Now, you talk to a lot of other professional advisors, attorneys, accountants, bankers, other people like that. When you're looking to work with them, and whether it's within the personal realm with the families you deal with, or it's the professional realm as you just talked about, when you're looking for these people and you're talking to them, are you looking for their skill set first, or are you looking for their mindset? Are they that transformational leadership type person that you want to work with, or is it the skill?
That's a good question. I think there needs to be a combination of both. I want someone, if you're going to talk to me, okay, I'm a New York State licensed life insurance agent. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to speak with someone that is going to be handling my money, like if I'm going to talk to you, Kevin,
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to know that you are managing your money properly. I want to know that your mindset is in the right place. I want to know that you're knowledgeable as well. But I think mindset is important because when you can shift your mindset into a way of knowing better, then you do better. When you know better, you should do better. So I think mindset is important, but I also think that having the skill level is just as important, because I wouldn't want an attorney defending me if they weren't skillful. I wouldn't want a CPA managing my money if they weren't skillful. So I think there needs to be a combination of skill and mindset.
All right. And then when you're looking around and you have you're going to different organizations, you're going to different conferences, you're going around to different networking events. How do you find other people that think similarly to you?
Well, you have to do research, number one. So if I'm going networking, and like sometimes when you go to these networking events, there are lists that says who's coming. Mm-hmm. I like to do my research and find the people before I get there. And this is one of the things that I teach in my networking workshop, that you do research on the persons that are going to be there so that you know who you need to reach out to once you get to the event. So I don't want to walk into a networking event and I'm just cold or blind, especially if I've been giving a list. Now, if I do have to walk in cold and blind, you can kind of tell who the leaders are in the room by the way people gravitate towards them. I'm a person that likes to sit back and watch. I can tell by your energy. I can tell by your body language because I'm trained to, look for those things. And you just kind of look for those persons that might be beneficial to you, your career, your family, your clients, and then I just connect with them that way.
All right. And finally, I got one more question for you. And thank you so much for being part of the conversation today. When other people come to you that are outside of the realm of they want to hire you, but they want to learn more about how they can help others, how do you mentor them? How do you work with them at that point? You've already noticed that, hey, they have a similar leadership style that I have, but they're looking for help. They're young. They haven't been doing it for very long. How do you help them?
So I believe in an each one, reach one methodology. So if I teach you a skill, I'm expecting that when you go home, that you teach that skill to someone else. Because a lot of times families can't pay for everyone that needs to come to the trainings or to the programs to come. And that's okay. So what I instill into the people that work with me is each one, reach one. Don't keep what you've learned to yourself. If I ask you a poignant question that helped to change your life, I'm expecting that you go out and you pay it forward with that question, and you ask someone else, what do you think you need to change most about yourself? And that's a very powerful question because we don't just sit around and think about that. We wait for someone to ask us. And so I like to just put it, right out there. And then I encourage them to go home, ask your parents, Mom, Dad, if you could change anything about yourself, what would it be? What do you need to change most about you?
Those are some beautiful, powerful conversations that they're now able to have.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you so much for today's conversation. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody else for joining us on Great Leaders Serve. Please help us by getting this valuable message out. So rate us, subscribe to us, leave a review on your favorite podcast app. But most importantly, share Great Leaders Serve with friends and colleagues. Thank you very much.
For more information about the Center for Serving Leadership, visit our website at centerforservingleadership.com.